Welcome to all the young people and all of you who are young at heart. One of Jesus's favorite ways to teach his followers was through stories. He often used a special kind of story called a parable. It's the kind of story where listeners really have to think after they hear it, and there are lots of different ways to interpret or understand what it means. Today's story we're talking about is the parable of the sower, or farmer, someone who spreads seeds. In this parable, the farmer tosses seeds all around and it lands on different kinds of soil. First, he tosses some and it lands on a path. And since there's no soil for the seeds, birds come and quickly pick off the seed before it has a chance to grow. Some seed lands on rocky soil that only has a little dirt, and so the plants grow quickly, but then they die because they don't have deep roots in the rocks. The third kind of soil is already crowded with these thorny weeds, and so the little seed doesn't have much room to grow. The fourth kind of soil is rich and dark, and it's got so much good nutrients that the seeds can tuck in, grow roots, and grow beautiful plants with lots and lots of fruit. Now we get to the part where we think about, what does this parable mean? I bet Jesus might have had some farmers who were his followers, but I don't think his main point was telling them which kind of soil to plant their seeds in. The kinds of seeds Jesus was talking about weren't the seeds for plants. They were seeds of ideas, the seeds of teachings that Jesus shared on God's love and how we should treat one another and how we should live. These idea seeds weren't going into the ground, of course. They were going into the listeners who were hearing the stories and the lessons Jesus taught. Now, every time you listen to a parable, you might hear or learn something different. I've heard this story many times, probably since I was your age, but this is the first time when I heard this story that I thought about the Black Lives Matter movement and the civil rights movement in this country. I thought about Jesus' teaching about love. You know, I talk about that a lot. And I thought, well, love should be easy, right? Then why in our country do we have such a long and hard and really sad history of Black and brown people being treated really unfairly and badly in this country? If love was so simple, why isn't it taking root and growing? From slavery to segregation, where people were kept apart, to prisons and police violence that still continues today. One way of treating people poorly has turned into another way, and still Black and brown people are being pushed to the side. Throughout this time, there have also been people who have been speaking up, and they've been saying, this is not right. This is not God's way of love. We shouldn't treat people this way. We are being treated unfairly. And yet, the seeds of those ideas, the voices of those people saying, stop, this isn't right, hasn't always been heard and hasn't fully taken root to create the change that we need. You know, I was thinking about my own life and I was wondering, when have I been in these different types of soils, if I think about it in terms of the civil rights movement and how Black people have been treated? When I was young, some of these ideas might have been falling on the path and picked off by birds, meaning when I was in school, I wasn't really taught the full history of our country. I wasn't always told the full history of the role white people played in hurting Black people and the many accomplishments of Black people and standing up for themselves in this country. So those ideas didn't even have a chance to grow. Sometimes I know things will happen, big things will happen in the news, and something will get a lot of attention really quickly for a little time. Maybe that's kind of like the rocky soil where people might stand up and there might be protests and concern, but then after a while it dies away. There's not really roots to that. There's not education and a sense of, we need to really keep going here. Other times, I think the seeds of love and treating everyone fairly gets really clogged out by prickly roots in our culture. Things like people's biases, treating people with their prejudices, when we look in magazines or on TV and we see stereotypes, it really can clog the reality. And when people will share, maybe a Black person would share their story of feeling treated unfairly, and maybe a white person would say, I don't believe you. I haven't had that experience. That's kind of like those weeds clogging out those voices and those ideas. This summer, I've been noticing a lot on the news and in the world that it seems like more people, and especially more white people and some of the people in power, are kind of like this rich soil. They're really taking these seeds and these ideas and recognizing that, yeah, this is really unfair. And wow, maybe some of us didn't recognize what was happening before, but we know, and we need to go deep. We need to put down roots and educate ourselves and listen to people sharing their ideas. And we need to stand up for what is right, and we need to make change in this country. I hope you'll join with me and we can put down those beautiful roots and we can grow beautiful plants, and those fruits will be the fruits of love and compassion and justice. And we will share those because our roots run deep and we're in this together. Let's share a prayer together. Dear God of seeds of love, thank you for reminding us again and again and again that you want us to love one another and include one another. Help us to listen deeply this time so we can hear how we need to change ourselves, and so we can help to be agents of change to make the world more filled with fruits of love. Amen. Now I share the peace with you.